All right, guys, today we're going to be going over the Bronx youth gang leader, Benjy Melendez. So his story starts in the South Bronx in the early 1950s, August 3rd, 1952 to be exact. The South Bronx, from well before he was born, was a tough place to live and grow up. Violence everywhere, drugs, degeneracy. If you shouldn't do it, you could best believe it was being done in abundance in the South Bronx. And so this is the world Benjamin Melendez came into. Puerto Rican by blood, Bronx by birth. He grew up like most kids during that time, playing stickball, getting into fights with other neighborhood kids, where the block was your family, burned out buildings were your playground. It was the living, breathing New York City version of Lord of the Flies. But by the late 1960s, the Bronx and his generation grew more dangerous. Violence only begets more violence. And Benjy found his way into the Ghetto Brothers, a predominantly Puerto Rican and black street gang that had quite a sizable territory in the South Bronx. During this time, there were literally hundreds of different gangs throughout the 5 boroughs, such as the Ghetto Brothers, Savage Skulls, Black Spades, the Assassinators, Tomahawks, Turban Saints, the Dirty Ones. The list goes on and on. But Benjy seemed to have some forward thinking when it came to his gang politics. Yes, there was violence, but he tried to move the organization into something bigger, where politics and neighborhood organization was brought into the fold, trying to actually bring some sort of peace to the chaos. But at the end of the day, the streets are still the streets. And just because you're looking for peace, it doesn't mean every other gang is going to be looking for that same peace. And in 1971, on December 7th, a devastating loss for the Ghetto Brothers would occur, where Black Benjy, who was a reformed drug addict in the gang and trying to mediate a peace meeting between 2 other rival gangs, and unfortunately, for whatever reason, was beaten to death with a pipe. And normally, that would mean retaliation, immediate, swift, and drastic. But Benjy Melendez, Yellow Benjy, did something that was unheard of before that loss and hasn't really happened often after. He called for a meeting, not revenge. And the largest peace meeting that this era of New York City gang history ever experienced happened 5 days later, on December 7th, 1971, at the Boys Club on Hoe Avenue in the South Bronx, just 5 days after Black Benjy was killed. Brutally. Over 100 gangs spread throughout the boroughs sent 3 delegates. So well over 300 young men came to this boys and club to try and figure out how they can stop this senseless violence, led by Yellow Benjy, in honor of Black Benjy, because he felt his mission was peace and he should continue it in his honor instead of spark more violence. And it was quite successful. The gangs agreed that there would be safe passage, no random attacks. They would let rivals pass through their territory without the threat of violence, which was huge because this is also at the beginning of the birth of hip hop. So DJs, dancers that might be a part of these gangs are traveling through all of these rival hoods. Now they can carry their equipment, attend these parties, perform without having to look over their shoulder and enjoy themselves. Number 2 was no retaliation for Black Benjy's death, and everyone agreed. And 3, it feels like they took a page out of the old mafia playbook, that there would be meetings and sit downs and try to talk things out first before violence can be enacted. And 4, block parties, concerts, and community gatherings were declared neutral zones. No fighting, no colors. It had to be peaceful. And no hurting non-gang members. No innocents could be targeted. And for the next 2 years following this meeting, the violence dropped dramatically. So this was actually a very successful meeting, and we could say Black Benjy probably would have been proud that his death led to the peace that he sought after instead of more violence. Now, after this meeting, the Ghetto Brothers also became a music band where they blended rock, soul, and Latin rhythms and more political messages in their lyrics. And obviously by the 80s, most of these gangs ceased to exist, and they grew up, became family men, career men, and women. Benjy Melendez passed away in 2017, and he was remembered as someone who really slowed down such a violent time period for youth in New York City, and is really one of the sparks to start to turn the city around when it was probably in its worst shape in the 70s. But that is the story of Benjy Melendez and the positive impact that he had when it comes to the out of control gang violence that was plaguing New York City.